Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Quantum Compass. This is episode number 2. My name is Davyd Farrell. I'm one of your co-hosts. And today I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, the one and only Bella Alvaran. Hi, Bella.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Good. Really good, thanks.
Right. So following on from our first episode a couple of weeks ago, this is our new regular slot that we'll be releasing roughly every 12, 13 days ahead of the upcoming Mayan Wave Spell. And just as a quick review, we've been in the energy of the Red Serpent, right, Bella?
Yes. So our first episode was reviewing the wave spell of the Red Serpent, which was all about Kundalini, life force energy, and the survival energy, being able to transform the survival energy into life force. So that's the one we have just finished, and we're about to enter a new wave spell, which is actually going to take us right in the middle of the mystical column. So I'll be showing you that in a minute.
Wow. Okay. So yes, the energy is generally very intense right now. We're going to be looking also, as we're always going to be doing, at the major astrological transits happening during this wave spell. And we're going to be introducing a plant which we think will be useful to work with at this time, and we'll give some reasons why. And we're also going to be introducing something new in the astrology chart this week that we just recently discovered, but more on that later. So Bella, take it away with the next wave spell, which starts on February the 15th, right?
That's right. So if you're new to this show, what we're trying to do here is to teach you how to use containers to create magic and for healing and for different processes of manifestation. So this one, this specific show is about showing you the Mayan wave spell of the current moment, which is a 13-day period, the astrology within it, and a plant that could help us navigate that process. Okay, let's have a look at the presentation here. Okay, can you see that there?
Yes, yes. So navigating the galactic flow, that's what this show is all about. And our overall intention and aim, right, Bella, is to help everybody to see really how we can layer these different energies that are always happening around us together into something that makes sense for us as we move forward. So navigating the flow is really our way of saying, hey, this is how we can take a pulse on what's coming up in the next fortnight also.
Right. And just for those that are new to the Mayan glyphs or Mayan kins, these are the 20 glyphs or archetypes that we work with. And what we want to show people is that the 1260 Gregorian calendar doesn't allow us to come into the organic cycles of manifestation and time. So if we jump into one of those, in the Solkin, for example, that is a 260 calendar, 260 days calendar, then you can have containers that will allow you to reconnect with the galactic and organic cycles. And so the one we're working with for the next 13 days, starting on the 15th of February, is the white mirror. This is the archetype or the glyph here at the bottom. And then the white one here is the 13-day wave spell or dream spell. And this middle column is called the mystical column. So it's the most powerful point of alignment inside this toroidal field. And this is the white magnetic mirror. That is the glyph in the middle. And what we want to pay attention to for the next 13 days is to anything that has to do with facing our shadow, be paying attention to any judgment or projections that we put on other people. So just think of it as looking at yourself in the mirror. And what is it that you still need to be honest with yourself and face that shadow, bring the sword of truth and some clarity. So this is about being able to walk into that hall of mirrors and realizing what kind of projections you're putting into other people, and just see people as gifts, as people that are teaching us that there are still things within ourselves that we need to integrate and heal. And the transformation for this wave spell is being able to release and to forgive yourself, and just face your shadows and just step into that greater reality of who you truly are. That's the energy of those 13 days.
Wow. It's super interesting, as always. And the more that we do these shows and hopefully other people tune into what we've observed, Bella, is that these energies from the Mayan dream spells often coincide really beautifully with other astrological transits. And we're going to be looking a little bit at the energy of Chiron, which is also very much dealing with the illusion of separation, which is a very big piece that 2024, I think, is going to be about for everybody.
Yeah. And for those that are new, so we take a step every day, starting on the 15th. And so on day 1, we identify the purpose of that cycle. What do you want to achieve? Understanding the energy of that archetype. On day 2, you identify the challenge. Then on day 3, you identify the service. And then there is a glyph for each one of them. This is a little bit more advanced. We'll cover this in the course that we're putting together. We do this in our immersions. But for now, we just want to give an overview of what is the energy of those 13 days. How can you use it for your own healing or evolution? Then we ask those questions every day over the next 13 days. And that's it for the Mayan Wave Spell. It's called the White Mirror. And so the summary is just see how you're still projecting on other people. Put yourself into other people's shoes before you start the judgment. And make sure you use that obsidian knife, to cut any cords of any kind of illusions that you are still holding.
Right. So can I ask you a question, Bella? Maybe this is a little advanced, but I noticed that with the beginning of this, it's actually a double white magnetic mirror. Perhaps if we could go back a couple of slides and just show our audience what that is and perhaps just give a little introduction.
Right. Yeah, this is it's called a Mayan Oracle. And all of us have an archetype. It's called a galactic signature. And we have those other 4 energies that are supporting us as guidance. So the double mirror, meaning this other one on the top, is called the guide. So that is the guide for the next 13 days, or specifically for that day, for February 15. And we all have those energies. So if you want to learn more about that, we can also go into it. But this is just the guide energy.
Right. So if I've understood correctly, the energy of this moment, of this upcoming wave spell, is the white magnetic mirror of all of the qualities you've just shown, but it's also, in this case, being guided by the same energy, which is
double the energy. Yes.
Right. Can you also, if I haven't put you on the spot too much, can you also just tell our audience what the other 3 glyphs around the center represent, so we can start building our own awareness about what all these things mean in time?
Yeah, so this other one here is the star, this one is the knight, and that one here is the dragon. So we all have 4 energies plus the center one, our galactic signature. And so the guide is at the top. At the bottom, we have the hidden energy that we can tap into. The other one is the energy that is beneficial to us. And then there is an antagonist energy that we need to be aware of. Like everything, there is a positive and a negative.
So in many ways, it's a bit like maybe when we take a short tarot reading with maybe just 3 or 4 cards, and they often have the same energies. What is the hidden influence? What is the catalyst or the antagonist? What is the guidance? And well, in that case, it's also a result
You
card.
could also see it as your medicine wheel for manifestation, what you manifest in the vertical and horizontal through your heart.
Right. And so we understand that there's a lot to take on board if you're new to this. And so we're going to try and give a little bit of information with each episode that starts to build the knowledge base for all of these things, because it is a lot to take on board. And particularly for those of us of a Western mind persuasion, it's something to get our heads around, because we're kind of almost switching how we perceive time from the Gregorian 1260 to the 1320 Maya. And that does take some sort of psyche or mentality shift, right, Bella?
Yes, just to remind that the Gregorian keeps us out of synchronicity with the planet and with the cycles of the galaxy. So it's harder to manifest because you're not in an organic flow.
Okay. Right. Okay.
I wanted to ask you, you were introduced to the Mayan calendar just over a year and a half ago. What did you get from your Mayan activation?
Okay, so thank you for asking, first of all. Well, What I remember is the very first Mayan Wave Spell that I really put some strong attention to was also the one that was my galactic birthday. And I think for your guidance at that time, I was really able to feel into the energies of each day as it built towards my first consciously aware galactic birthday. Of course, I'd had previous ones to that, but I hadn't been aware of them. But that day was very, very powerful. And I remember feeling like I stepped up and received my galactic citizenship. And my life has never really been the same since. Subsequently, a little bit after that, got introduced to the Stellar Nations pathway with our teacher and guide, Leslie Shankman, which really started to activate my cosmic DNA. I'd always been very earth-centric, I guess. And even in all of my long years of working with medicine plants, I'd had very little sort of cosmic connection. It'd all been very otherworld, very underworld. And maybe that was just the karmic journey that I had needed to go on up until that point. But the introduction of the Mayan dream spells and time scale into my awareness has really, really radically and fundamentally changed how I perceive time, how I use time. And in conjunction, particularly working with Dandelion, which of course was the very first plant that we ever worked with, Bella, when we first created quantum plant healing, which actually was only just, I guess, a month or two after that first Mayan Wave Spell back in the spring of 2022. So what it's given me, to answer your question in a sort of a shorthand way, is it's given me the understanding that every moment of every day matters. And according to how much intention and attention I put to it, first of all, I can make the energy of the day feel longer. We've been observing this, right, over the last few months, and so many of our tribes have too, tribe members have too, in that sometimes time seems to go really quickly if I'm not paying attention to it. But if I really pay attention to what I'm doing, it seems like time slows down and I can actually get more done. So maybe time has become more malleable and fluid with the energies hitting the planet. But with Saturn in Pisces, and I think this is something we're going to be talking a lot about in the coming weeks, with Saturn in Pisces, all of our anchors that we hold on to have been sort of, I would say, not washed away, but they're not really as solid anymore. And we go to grab hold of something and find, oh, it's not stuck down anymore, because the infrastructure of our society, of the world, is changing. And I think that the Mayan calendar and its emphasis on the importance of every moment gives us something that we can still hold on to, and we can make sense of, and we can work with for magic and manifestation. And, you know, I would say the other thing, Bella, that it's given me and us together is the beautiful containers which we've done the plant immersions in. So I mean, I love holding space, I love containers, I love the structure of all of those things, and having this 13-day wave spell where each day has a different energy and you can work with it for an end goal, I think is beautiful. And as all of our immersion participants have seen, it can be incredibly powerful. And we're going to be talking about what's coming up with QPH and the next plant immersion a little bit later in the show. So yes. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. So I just wanted people to understand what they actually get or obtain from understanding their archetype when it comes to the Mayan glyph. Because I think it's really important.
I didn't answer that part. Sorry, Bella. Yes, so my glyph is the Skywalker number 13, which when you shared that with me and explained what the energy of it was, it just made so much sense to me about so many aspects of my personality and how I've lived my life, and even my innate ability to transcend consciousness and skip across dimensions and realities is something that has always been there for me. And when you understand your glyph and you realize that these are the qualities you come in with, I think there's some sense of validation, at least there was for me, and also a sense of purpose moving forward.
Good. Okay. So the first part of the show is the Mayan information. The second part is the astrological transits and alignments going on over that period of time. So do you want to share some of these?
Yeah, so I'm just going to start by way of a little introduction, because the major predominant energies really in the month of February are with Chiron and with the energy of Aquarius, but also still a lot of action with Pluto. And the first real piece is Venus conjuncting Pluto, again at the 0 degrees of Aquarius. So we can see that down here. I don't know whether you can mark your cursor there, Bella, but just over here on the left-hand side, we have Venus and Pluto. Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Beautiful. And, you know, what's interesting is that really, in many ways, Aquarius is Prometheus, who stole the fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. And of course, the fire is a metaphor for the light of knowledge and awareness. However, the gods decided to punish Prometheus for doing this, and Zeus chained him to a rock where an eagle slowly ate his liver. However, Prometheus was immortal, so he couldn't die. So it's a bit like a bad Groundhog Day, really, dying a million deaths every day. So not super pleasant. However, his salvation came from Chiron, who traded his own immortality to save Prometheus. And what's interesting is that Chiron actually orbits between Saturn and Uranus, which is the ruler of Aquarius. So in many ways, we can say that Chiron is a sort of a bridge between the two, which I think is really interesting. And also, you know, in many ways, Chiron is half horse and half centaur, or sorry, half man, half horse, or half centaur, and sort of represents, is another metaphor really for us being sort of 50% matter and 50% spirit. And when we fail to integrate these primal and divine aspects of ourselves, we can end up feeling a little isolated or disconnected. And this can lead to polarization and judgment and sort of very dualistic thinking, sort of good and bad and light and dark. And, you know, one is my truth is the definitive truth and yours therefore must be wrong. And so it takes us away from this sort of idea that duality is not either or, but can be both. We can have two seemingly contradictory truths, both true at the same time, depending on where you put your attention and which filter you look at things through. So reality and truth is a very, very subjective experience, really, that each and every one of us experience individually. And occasionally we can find common consensus, but quite often we can even disagree over small details and how we perceive them. So really and truly, I would say that Chiron is the missing link between ourselves and that isolation, which is interesting because of the wave spell, forcing us to look at these places of isolation. So this first conjunction here, I think, is really interesting. First of all, because the personal planets are continuing to tick over Pluto in Aquarius and taking their new instructions. So we're having all of these personal planets moving into the Aquarian age, but through the filter of Hades. So it's almost like we have this little bit of a journey through the underworld, looking at our personal stuff, our Venusian energy, our Martian energy, and our Mercury energy. They're all have either already passed through or going to pass through in the next during February. And so they're asking us to look at those personal parts of ourselves that perhaps still need attention, which again, I think is where the magnetic mirror kicks in. So there are many other astrology shows out there going into all of this in detail. We just want to bring some of the details into the awareness, but I just want to highlight something also that I shared with Bella just off camera, which maybe some of our astrology viewers out there might be able to also interpret a little bit more. But a very interesting picture emerged when I included a brand new asteroid that has come into our awareness, and that asteroid is number 8643, and it is currently at 10 degrees of Sagittarius, and its name is Quercus. Now, I'm sure many of you out there scratching their head and saying, okay, he's lost the plot this time, him and his fascination for the obscure asteroid. Well, there's a reason for this, and that is because we're going to be going into an oak immersion on February the 28th. And so I decided to do a search because there are some planets and asteroids named after trees and plants. And Quercus is, of course, the Latin name for the family of the oak. But what's really interesting is that it's they're in a little, let's have a look. It's in a square to, Saturn down in Pisces, which in itself is in a sextile to Jupiter at 9 degrees of Taurus. But if we include Varuna at 7 degrees of Aries and Maki at 10 degrees of Libra, then we have this really interesting shape that's appeared, which is basically like a five-pointed star. So hopefully I've explained myself well enough there. But Maki, as Alan Clay was sharing in the beautiful interview I did with him recently, it's very, very shamanic. It's a very deep connection with wisdom of the planet and particularly the trees and plants. And and then we have Varuna over there, and then the bottom of this is Jupiter in Taurus and Saturn in Pisces. So it makes a very interesting shape, and I'd love to hear from astrologers out there what that is. It's not exactly a kite because it's five-sided. I'm not sure if it's a pentagram. It doesn't quite fit the pentacle shape, but it seems a very interesting. Yeah, thank you, Bella, for that beautiful artwork there to illustrate my point. So these are all in aspect to each other, and what I'm really getting from this is the emphasis on a return to nature, that actually is a great bridge so that we don't feel disconnected, we don't feel isolated. Because when I go into my garden and I sit under my favorite trees, I never feel alone. And one of my favorite trees, probably like many of our audience, Bella, is of course the oak tree. And I know where you are now, there's some beautiful oaks, right? This is a tree that has been with humanity for thousands of years. It's almost integrated into each and every one of our lives. And so I asked Bella to pull up this picture here of a Texas live oak in Victoria, Texas. I think it's a very famous one, but just look how majestic that is. It actually really reminds me of the yew tree when it's allowed to grow into its fullest form. It has this very beautiful spread eagle shape, but this tree teaches us how to hold space for ourselves and how to be sovereign, which is again very much the energy of Aquarius. So I think it's interesting. The oak is very linked to Saturn, and we're going to be talking about all of these in a number of upcoming shows, but also in some dedicated pieces that we're going to be doing for the oak immersion, which we'll talk a little bit at the end. So just wanted to introduce that. If some of you were looking at the charts and going, what's that quirky he's written on the side there? So there's a reason for all of this, but I think it's really powerful that it's moving into that alignment with the galactic, with the great attractor, Bella. And I feel like yeah, go on.
And this is our brand new oak tree essence from QPH. You can get it from our platform. It's a live oak from Texas.
Right. So again, the oak has been helping us create structure and for our new products, in fact. And that's one of the great aspects of the oak, is it gives us that sense of structure. It's very, very in that regard. So anyway, just wanted to bring that into the awareness. We'll be talking about that.
So wrapping up this alignment, Pluto with Venus in Aquarius, new type of relationships, a reset in relationships, that struggle of power and control versus freedom. So depending on where this conjunction is falling in your chart, see which house is affecting in your chart. If it's the 7th house, 5th house, 11th house, so your relationships may be changing drastically, probably with this new alignment.
Right, and I've also written here in my own notes for this particular conjunction that this is a time to take an eagle's perch perspective on ourselves. I think that's always a great thing to do. And in fact, the plant that we recommended in the last show was mugwort. And mugwort is a very, very good plant in my experience for being able to separate out our consciousness in meditation, so that we can look down upon our own actions from a sort of more non-dual place and ask ourselves those questions. Well, why did I get triggered by that? Why did I react that way? What was it about that situation? What does it say about me? What's the mirror here for me in this situation? So I really feel that energy from the previous wave spell, which we're still in while we're recording this, of course, but we're coming to the end of, is rolling into the next one and asking us to be more 5D. Again, the oak tree is very connected to the upper realms. Its branches reach high into those higher dimensions, but in its very essence, the oak tree, I think, is the king of sovereignty, which is a very 5D way of being. So really beautiful energy here, but also very, very strong. And that's coming ahead of the next major transit, Bella.
So let me just wrap this up. All to do with transformation and self-value is probably the key words we want to leave you with. And then we go into the next one.
Yeah, so this one really is all about the conjunction between Chiron on the north node at 16 degrees. Now, I managed to let's see if we can find this on the chart here, Bella, so that people can see. Yes, down here in Aries, I managed to get it within 3 minutes here for where I am in Pátzcuaro. Found a wonderful website that you can program in your coordinates, and it tells you exactly the times of all of the major conjunctions. And often as sensitive people, Bella, we can feel the energies of a moon coming 2 or 3 days ahead of time, and some of the bigger planets and their actions we can even feel maybe ahead of that time. But I have to say, as a sensitive person, particularly to the astrology, I often find that the point at which the actual direct conjunction happens has a different energy of itself. It can only happen in that moment. And so I often like to try and do intention setting as close to that moment as possible. But if I can't actually hit that moment, I like to do it a little bit after, so that the energy is already unfolding by that point. So we can play with the astrology in different ways. So Bella's beautifully marked out this conjunction. And, you know, this is a tricky energy. That's why I was reading out the little bit at the beginning about how we can work with this energy and how we can. Yeah, I mean, Chiron is our deepest wound, and but it's also the gift that emerges when this wound is embraced and alchemized. And the North Node is karmic energy, really. It's collective karma and where we're heading to in the future. It's not like the South Node, which is sort of asking us to look at where we've come from and reviewing anything that maybe still needs to be done. So when we've got this somewhat rare conjunction apparently between Chiron and the North Node, we're really being asked to rewrite our karmic patterns perhaps and come at things from a different angle. I think that's really what this whole wave spell is about, is receiving any last instructions, mirrors like, hey, maybe this way of doing things is not working out. Maybe this way you've been doing things has got some shadow in it. So maybe it's not coming from the purest of places. Maybe it's not 5D. Maybe it's still distorted 3-4D. And so I think that whatever is going to come up during this wave spell that triggers us, or even brings into our awareness a really old, deep wound. And often, as we've talked about before in QPH, Bella, and I've seen with many clients, is a lot of wounds that are really karmic actually may have got reactivated in this life, but they often have their root origin in what we would call a parallel timeline, or some people might say past lives. But these things are going on simultaneously. So again, we're being forced to look at the nature of time and the fact that if something is affecting us in this moment, in this time-space continuum, it's still active, even if it seems like it's the past from linear time. So I think that we're really being asked to explore our soul's journey, not just from a 3D, very linear perspective, but hey, what kind of journey has my soul been on to bring me to this point, which is really what our astrology blueprint is, the guide for when we come in.
I think it's calling us, sorry, it's calling us to a new start, like a new you, like to review yourself, your identity, and then kind of reset. Okay, have you fulfilled all of your karmic cycle up to here? Are you ready for the new cycle? Because as we can see with all of those planets that just moved into Aquarius, we have already jumped into the age of Aquarius. So are you ready for this new age? And is there anything outstanding that you need to review, heal before you jump on?
Right, and thank you for saying that. You've just also jolted something else into my awareness, is that some of us may have been experienced almost like quantum leaps in how we've been feeling due to the amount of light pouring onto the planet and many other energetic shifts. But sometimes we can make a leap and feel really good. But if we haven't fully done our homework and dealt with our core wounds, what can happen is we can be feeling amazing, but then we can drop off the edge of a cliff almost when our core wounds come back and almost bite us on the behind because we haven't dealt with them. And that sometimes can have a very deflating effect. It can bring us really, really down to realize that we haven't dealt with some things. But if we can handle that momentary sort of drop in the frequency and say, hey, okay, something just happened here, I need to have a look at this, then we can say, thank you very much for the experience and say, okay, there's obviously clearly something here that is still allowing me to drop down in these frequencies. So again, there's never anything bad. That's the beauty of this experience, that there's only good, really, if we want to put things into those phrases, but there's always a learning experience. And I think that Chiron is one of the greatest teachers in the astrological spectrum.
Yeah, and the fact that they are in Aries, also, it's another call for independence and freedom. I think we're going to see that in the collective very actively in the next few days, maybe even during this wave spell.
Right, that's very true. And I also just one more thing I wanted to point out here, Bella. So down in the early degrees of Aquarius, we have a little bit of a mini stellium going on now with Pluto, Venus and Mars all basically sitting on top of each other. So we have this very interesting Venus-Mars conjunction, which I think comes into a full direct in a week or so's time. I'd have to check the exact dates, but the energy is basically there already. Is there anything you want to say about that, Bella?
Yeah, I see the aspect with the moon. So the moon representing the people. I think it's what is going to be shown. People, more protests, maybe more people saying that what they stand for, being more outspoken, maybe going more on the streets. I don't know. We've seen what's been going on in Europe, and I see that as like a bit of a revolutionary energy.
Right. So yes, of course, if you are following the global news in any way at all, you will understand what Bella is talking about is the number of demonstrations that have been happening, particularly across Europe. and also in North America too. And of course, you know, as some other very erudite astrologers have pointed out, often when in previous cycles, when Pluto has first entered into Aquarius, there have been revolutions, civil wars, uprisings, rebellions. So there is something very rebellious about this energy, but also, you know, I think from the point of view of evolution, we need to have these sort of shifts in the cycle of the ages, and humans traditionally have always needed to keep evolving. And we've now come to, I think, another one of those critical mass moments where we're going to make more shifts and quantum leaps in our consciousness throughout 2024. So it feels as if this little mini stellium, Bella, is helping to call the shots, basically. It's a bit like the conductor, I think.
Yeah, and with the Chiron North Node is for the healing of humanity, you know, this let's move on from this karmic cycle and let's start fresh is what it feels like. Good.
Right.
And
yeah.
the final alignment you want to have a look at is the full moon, right?
The full moon, yes. So this is coming up at 5 degrees of Virgo here in Mexico. Certainly it's on the 24th of February. And what did I want to say about this? Let me just pull up my notes a second. So, yeah, what I also saw was that there's a very interesting square being formed between Sedna, the moon, the little stellium at the beginning of Aquarius, and then Hidalgo, which is, of course, the asteroid of revolution and rebellion. So maybe you can mark that out. The Sedna, I mean, some of the, it's a little wide on
Sedna, and who else?
Yeah, that's a little wide to 5 there, but then across to the sun at 5 and Hidalgo at 5 in Sag.
Okay.
So that's giving us, giving us this big square. And of course, we can see that Quercus has moved on a little bit more and is honing in towards that alignment with the galactic center, which will come into direct towards the end of February. So the reason I just wanted to bring this into the awareness again was introducing Hidalgo. And I did a wonderful video with Kelly Hunter, the astrologer, last year about asteroid 944 and why he'd come into our awareness, because we had a very profound connection, right, Bella, with Hidalgo last year, and really came to understand what he was about. And maybe you can share a little bit about how this relates to the upcoming eclipse in Texas and San Antonio, because all of this is conjoined, and this is why I love some of these more obscure asteroids.
Right, so we had a magical connection with Hidalgo when we were in Mexico. Then we had to come here to Texas and we had to dig into the whole history of what happened to Hidalgo and him standing with the goddess energy of Guadalupe for the liberation, for freedom of Mexico at the time. So he came to Texas, he came to the Alamo, he came to us for reinforcement from this area. He didn't get it at the time, and then unfortunately soon after that he fell. But we did some of the actual journey that he actually should have taken at the time. So it was quite magical, and it was fun actually to connect to that energy.
Right, and what's interesting about all of this, and again, not 100% sure on my historical details here, but the general emphasis, as I understood it, was that he came, as Bella just said, to get help from the governor of San Antonio and was refused, somewhat to his surprise. And actually, in that moment, the history and fate of both Texas and northern Mexico actually changed in that moment, because if the governor had made a different decision, we might be looking at a very different set of maps in this moment today than what we are looking at. And so we can say in somehow that many of the issues or perceived issues that we're being presented with at the moment in this area to do with the border are actually stemming back to this moment in history. And I find it fascinating that the April 8th eclipse is passing right over San Antonio and, of course, Texas in general. So it feels like, again, we've got this opportunity to, I wouldn't say rewrite history, but maybe recalibrate it, reattune it. And, you know, the energy of Hidalgo is very much of the rebellious leader. But what's interesting about Hidalgo himself was, of course, as Bella said, he went under the banner of the goddess of Our Lady of Guadalupe, but he actually managed to work with all of the indigenous people of northern and central Mexico who rallied behind him, even though he was a white priest. he somehow had a deep connection, I think, because he was connected to his heart, because he was under the banner of the goddess, and they call it the cry of Dolores is the cry that went out for the uprising of the rebellion, and all of these people came together. So, you know, some people have said, well, you know, I'm not sure about this. Why couldn't the indigenous people have done it themselves? I'm like, well, I think that that's just some modern affectation around all of this. I think it's really, really inspiring that people from different backgrounds came together for a shared ideal, which was freedom and independence. And I think that this energy is, again, very strong in this moment, Bella, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing. Sovereignty, freedom, independence. That is, and that's what the oak is actually been telling us. It's like, okay, ready to stand your ground. And this is the immersion that is coming for the 28th of February. The oak is really knocking on our door strong.
Right, so let's just take a couple of minutes just to talk about that. So as Bella just said, we're starting this 13-day oak immersion on February the 28th, which of course is the beginning of the next Mayan Wave Spell after this, and we will be doing the show in preparation for that in a couple of weeks. But that's a very powerful wave spell starting with the magnetic monkey, but it's also a day when we have a double Cazimi day of Saturn Cazimi and Mercury Cazimi. Now, again, we'll go into that in more detail down the road, but the oak tree is very linked to Saturn, and I'm just going to give a couple of keywords as to why. It's all about sovereignty and strength with the oak. And the tree is called the Tree of the Three Doors by the Druids, which it's very much linked to. The Druids are really an oak solar order in many ways. And again, we're going to be sharing more about the mythology behind that with the wonderful author and Druid Everett Hopman, who I just did a wonderful Immersion video with, which you can see on the YouTube channel here. So definitely recommend checking that out, because we get into the energies of spring, and it's another layer that we can work with. All of these videos we're presenting layers, everybody, that we invite you to step in and work with in the same way that me and Bella live our lives by. So the oak has stepped forwards at this time to bring us strength, and really so that we can be like the Ent, you know, in the second Lord of the Rings movie, when they release the water and the trees have to brace themselves for the onset of the flood. Now, the flood is only temporary because, of course, it drains away. And I think what we're being shown here is that we need to be ready to be like the Ent. In case of an emotional deluge, even a physical deluge, we can make sure that we are strong, that we're grounded, rooted with the oak's deep roots in. It has that strong trunk holding us firm in the middle world, but of course it has these antennae like branches that reach up into the higher dimensions, and the oak is known to be a conduit of electricity. It often gets hit by lightning, and so we know that it has this capacity to channel Uranus really strongly. But also, how do we then use that energy if we get hit by a Uranian moment of inspiration? How do we hold that energy within our field and then direct it? The oak is all about how to hold that structure, hold our poise, and to be sovereign. So it seems really beautiful that it's stepping forwards at this time to give us that Saturn in Pisces strength and say, you know what, the mantra of the oak is, I am enough. I am enough.
So one thing that maybe people don't know is that it's not Davyd and Bella thinking, when are we going to do an immersion? It's actually the trees and the plants that actually show us, okay, you need to put it together in, sometimes it's within a week, 2 weeks. This time we got a little bit more time, which we're quite happy about. But the oak is actually going to be run in this magical, mystical column, which is right at the center of the Solkin. And we didn't decide this. This is the plants actually doing all the work together, the Mayan and the plants. So this is the mystical column, is when you align your column for sovereignty. And I don't know if you can see the toroidal field. That's exactly what we are going to be doing from, I'll show you the next wave spell. It starts here.
Isn't that amazing, Bella, that that's literally 131 is the
Mm-hmm.
starting point for this immersion.
Yeah.
And it's the glyph right in the center of everything in this calendar. I think that that's just remarkable. And again, I think it gives us energy. This is a new beginning, a new start, a chance for us to redefine who we are from a 5D sovereign perspective. If I've removed all of my shadow, all of the things that no longer serve me, then who am I? This is me, and I'm ready to show myself to the world in all of my full glory, right?
Mm-hmm. I think what the oak is trying to show us here is that it's going to help us be hold that energy in the center through whatever is to come to us very soon. Hopefully we'll be able to stand in our sovereignty and discernment and freedom and independence and all of that.
Right. So as we've already shared a little bit there about the oak, we will be sharing more in the run up to this immersion. And please do come over to the quantumplанthealing.com website if you haven't already, and at least join up to our free tribal membership. We often have live calls, and in fact, are probably going to be doing some sort of preview call about that to our tribe in the next couple of weeks ahead of the immersion. Now, this is not the tree that we wanted, or the plant that we wanted to talk about in today's show. It's we're just giving a little bit of a heads up of what's coming down the road. But when we were thinking about which plant we wanted to link with this energy of the mirror and looking at shadow, the first plant that came into my mind, of course, was the dear old friend Wormwood, who is really a sister to the one that we recommended in the last wave spell. Again, we don't make these things up, but they come to us via the plants in accordance to what is the energy that we're perceiving and working with. And we have done a really strong Artemisia immersion, working with many different Artemisias. One of the first ones we did at quantumplанthealing.com. But Wormwood is a little different from mugwort for a variety of reasons. But again, I want to share Wormwood has really been coming into some of my own journey spaces recently and insisting on the need to cleanse out particularly parasitic energies and beings from our field. We've, I think, been exposed to a lot of new material in our atmosphere recently, and Wormwood in her own inimitable way is coming and reminding me to fumigate myself and to remove those parasitic energies that are basically leeching my own energy. And I would suggest that that's happening for many of us, Bella. So I asked Bella to put together this slide with just a few of different types of wormwoods there. We've got beech wormwood, we've got Ethiopian perfumed wormwood, which is a very rare species, and I think that's also Artemisia schmittiana, which is bush wormwood. And then we also have the top left, the traditional Artemisia absinthium. And so with there being such an emphasis at the moment from the plants about cleansing the parasitic energies, I just want to alert everybody, to anyone who's done the Artemisia immersion or feels called to work with this plant at this time, we will be doing a special call on the 15th of February to coincide with this upcoming wave spell, so that, like in fact me and Bella are doing at the moment, we are working with Wormwood to keep our energy fields clean. So I just want to also ask Bella to knock on a slide to something which caught my attention, because this is, of course, the plant that is in absinthe. And, you know, there are many interesting stories about absinthe, and lots of really amazing sort of Art Deco 20s artwork. But the point to include in the artwork is really that Wormwood is often referred to as the green fairy. And she also, because of some of the slightly psychoactive material, the Tujon especially, which is in Wormwood, she allows us to see beyond the veil. This is the other great gift of the Artemisias, particularly mugwort and wormwood. They're able to assist us here in the third eye space to see more clearly into the non-physical realms, or particularly the astral realms. And this is another great benefit that I want to share at this time. These are plants that can really protect us and assist us in our dream space. And if we're not sleeping consciously, or we're perhaps a little open in the dream space, these plants can really assist us in to become lucid, but also to protect us.
So it's perfect with the wave spell of the mirror, which is about dissolving all of the illusions. You need to be able to see through the mirror, you know, make it like convert the mirror into a window that you can see clearly through, basically.
Right. Yes. Thank you for pointing out, Bella. So that really is the ultimate point of introducing the wormwood plant at this time. You know, following on from the mugwort, if you were working with mugwort during this last wave spell, and then you want to work with wormwood too, you will have given yourselves basically almost a month of some good Artemisia medicine, both into the body, but also into the energetic space. And the one thing about the Artemisias is that they will always find the things in your shadow space that you cannot see or don't want to see, and they'll bring them into your awareness, but then they'll release them quickly.
And this time is not only about our shadow and our illusions, but the global ones. So if we get to see more information and disclosure, and we're gonna have to look at things and see what was behind all of these lies and illusions, and you know.
Right. So in many ways, I would say that Wormwood is a bit like Neptune in Pisces, helping us to somewhat see through the murky depths where everything is not super clear. And, you know, this is where linking Wormwood or the Artemisia, but Wormwood specifically right now with the oak kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, the oak is asking us to get ready, to be prepared, to stand strong, because when the Wormwood is at work, it's going to reveal everything in our individual, but also our collective awareness that we did not want to see, the things that made us feel sick to look at or to think about. Unfortunately, as part of any release and purge, there is a moment where we always have to look at and acknowledge what it is that's being released for it to be fully released, and then it's gone. And that's one of the beautiful aspects of the Artemisias, but particularly Wormwood, is they don't like to draw things out. It's like, no, we know this isn't pleasant. We're going to get it done quickly, and then we're going to release it, and then you can start to move on in a freer, more illuminated and holistic space.
All right. So that was the third part of the show. Anything else you want to cover?
Not really. I think that's it for this particular quantum compass. We of course are preparing for February the 28th, right, Bella? And again, we are able to ship oak essences currently all over the United States, and we're just working on the web to ship
super
to Canada as
exciting.
well. Yeah. You know, we've been working on this for quite a while, and I think it's so beautiful that in the end it was the oak at this time that has enabled us to finally put this together, because it's been in our awareness for, well, I think since we first met that we were going to make some essences, and we've got a whole bunch that we've made, but we haven't been able to release them. And so the oak is already stepping in and giving us our teachings about how to organize ourselves, how to structure ourselves, and how to start from a good foundation.
Yeah, I think it wants to be the one that holds the energy, like the big umbrella of what's to come in terms of essences and everything with QPH. And our logo, you know, when I put together the logo, it was an oak, but it's right there in the middle. So it's really cool.
We were just joking before we made this video that that the oak has been running through our lives for as long as we can remember, right, Bella? And I think that's true for so many people. And, you know, when we look at the ancient sort of symbol, or the Celtic symbol of the tree of life, it's very much representative of the oak. And we're going to be getting into some of the more cosmic origins of the oak with Leslie through the Cosmic History Code. So watch out for that too. Lots of great stuff coming up here on QPH and QPW. And go on, Bella.
Yeah, as part of Stellar Nations, the oak is the one that is in the middle or with the other. There are 9 trees, according to the story, the cosmic history of Stellar Nations, and the oak stands in the middle. And then there are other 8 trees, which are part of the book in the Stellar Nation of the birds. That's part of that story. So it's really beautiful.
It's really beautiful, and I'm not going to give too much away by saying this, but what we've come to realize is that the Saturn Cazimi that is happening on February the 28th is absolutely directly conjunct the planet Deneb Aldigi, which is where this story and energy of the trees comes from. So hopefully you're starting to get the idea about how all of these layers have come together for us in terms of the oak immersion, and through doing this show and through showing these things, we're hopefully showing all of you too how you can start to layer these multidimensional energies just by being ready to receive, really, in the same way the oak asks us to stick our branches high to the heavens and receive the cosmic signals. We too can do the same thing, and as long as our channel is nice and clear, after working with the likes of Mullin in the Return of the Light, we can ensure that we have this as above, so below energy pulsing through our central column, which again is very much, I think, symbolic of the central column in the calendar, Bella. So all of these energies are all coming together right now so that we can get anchored and aligned and ready to receive both the beautiful energy, but also to get ready for anything else that may be going on in the collective space.
Okay, so that's it from us. Thank you for watching. If you want to find out more about our immersions and now our essence, you can come to quantumplanethealing.com, or if you want to find out more about geomancy or stellar nations, which is about the galactic history and our cosmic DNA, you can come to quantumplanet.world.
Right. Thank you, Bella, for that. And we'll be putting all of those links in the show notes. And final plug for today, of course, is that Bella is continuously working on her upcoming Mayan workshop, which will be coming out, I think, towards the end of March, right, Bella?
End of March, yes.
Right, so information will be released on that in due course, and I think we're planning to release the actual workshop on February the 28th, right, Bella, so that people can start signing up for that if they want to go deep. with the Mayan cosmology. And I know from the research Bella's been doing, it's going to be something really, really beautiful. And of course, it's deeply imbued in that tradition herself, right? So looking forward to that one a lot. Yeah.
Yes, hopefully the guys will be channeling more and more of that information.
Right. Okay. And for those of you in Texas or in the southern US, we have put out a little bit of an alert because we are hoping to be in Texas and doing some maybe talks and workshops throughout the month of April, and really wanting to connect with our tribe members on the ground in Texas, because we perceive that this is where the action is going to be for New Earth, possibly the state of sovereignty, even as we move into this next phase. So exciting times, right, Bella?
Of sovereignty and oaks.
Sovereignty and oaks. I mean, there's so many oaks in Texas. There's so many varieties of oak in Texas. And I was joking with Bella, if you were to remove all of the oak trees from Texas, I would suggest that more than 60% or more of the biodiversity would disappear, because the oaks are really actually holding the space for Texas. There's so many of them and so many different varieties.
I just posted in our oak immersion group the picture of the oak in the Alamo, which is absolutely gorgeous. It's so beautiful.
Right. Texas really is a land of beautiful, beautiful oak trees. So again, just putting out that little alert there for those of you who may be interested to link with us and other tribe members in the month of April. Please do reach out and connect with us via the communication contact sheet on QPH. So that's it for today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, as always, to my beautiful co-host, Bella Alvaran.
Thank you.
Anything else you wish to share, baby, or no?
No. Have a wonderful white mirror wave spell. And remember, sovereignty, independence, freedom is the theme for the next few weeks. Well, hopefully for the next the time of Aquarius, the age of Aquarius.
Right, and I think for my final thought before we depart for today is that, yes, this is our opportunity to really step up now. We've been on an incredible journey here at QPH over the last year and a half with a trajectory that has taken us to this place now, which is indicating that we're stepping into the realms of sovereignty. We really are stepping up into the realms of 5D, everybody. And sovereignty is an experience. A freedom is something that you have to find for yourself. It cannot be imagined in your mind. It's something that you live from your heart in every moment of every day. And we hope that many of you will be joining us in that beautiful vibration as we move forward through 2024 and beyond. So hopefully you found today's show super interesting and useful. And we look forward to seeing you either at QPH on a live call or QPW very, very soon, or if not, back in a couple of weeks for the next round of the Quantum Compass. So that's it for this week. Take it easy, everybody, and we'll see you all again very soon. Ciao for now.